This year, on the 1st of September, we will commemorate the 80th anniversary of the outbreak of the Second World War. Poland was the first country to firmly resist the brutal expansion of the totalitarian powers, Nazi Germany and Soviet communism.
The war was declared by the British government against Germany, and more or less immediately Neville Chamberlain gave a radio broadcast to the nation to tell everybody that war had been declared.
I'd like to read you a short passage which is of the response of an ordinary British civilian hearing that radio announcement and the effect that it had on them. We all sat around the wireless set in silence. Even the children were quiet. And after the Prime Minister had made his affectingly simple statement, no one said a word. We all sat there for some moments until the national anthem was played. Then, still in silence, each got up and went up to their own rooms.
Battle of Britain enabled the UK to stay in the fight by defeating the Luftwaffe over the Channel and over the south and east coast of England. It meant that the United Kingdom was able to become that staging post for the bombardment of occupied Europe during the early 1940s, which caused a huge amount of disruption to the Nazi war machine.
I think there are quite some similarities between the Belgian and Polish experience of the Second World War. Belgium was invaded by Germany on the 10th of May 1940, as was announced by national radio in the early hours of that day. The attack didn't come as a surprise after the invasion of Poland in September 1939 and after the mobilization of the Belgian army. Its resistance was nevertheless overcome by the new combined use of tanks and air force. At the insistence of the Belgian ambassador in London, the Belgian government moved in exile to London, and many Belgians came to the United Kingdom to take service in the British armed forces.
It started in the early days of May 1940 when Nazi Germany invaded the Netherlands. We were ill-prepared, I think, because we had declared neutrality like we did in the First World War. And after the bombardment of the city of Rotterdam on the 14th of May, we had to capitulate, so that's when the war really started.
A reference to Poland was made in the statement to the Australian people by our then Prime Minister, Mr. Menzies. On the 3rd of September, Mr. Menzies, the Australian Prime Minister, made a broadcast to the Australian people. The Second World War for Australia was in fact a two-theatre war, because not only did Australia send troops to support Britain and to fight against the Axis powers in Europe, but also in December 1941, Japan invaded Singapore. It declared war, and shortly after, in early 1942, bombed northern Australia.
The Nazi hordes violated our borders in the early morning hours of April 9th, 1940. Of course, they made no declaration of war, they just moved in.
Poland and Denmark are close neighbors, only divided by the narrow Baltic Sea. Despite that, it's remarkable how different destinies awaited our two countries with the outbreak of World War II. Denmark was not invaded until 9th of April 1940, and although it remained occupied for the rest of the war, Denmark was spared from mass casualties and was never a major battleground.
We're able to talk freely today because of the sacrifices, the ultimate sacrifices that they were made by all the heroes. Cyprus is a small country, but we contributed something like 30,000 to the war effort, together with other Commonwealth countries, because there is we have a tendency to forget also the Commonwealth factor in the defeat of fascism.
Most people realise the significance of the Second World War and the result of the Second World War, which really set the international agenda for the years that followed, in particular the very difficult Cold War, which more or less started as soon as the Second World War ended, and then finally with the end of the Cold War, some rather more hopeful times.